Hello YouTube. Out walking. And I got to thinking, inspired by talking to somebody, and we were chatting back and forth, and they were telling me how oftentimes they're alone and it's hard for them to make connections in today's world. And so that inspired me to create this video. The paths we walk alone in this world. Some people, it's not their choice. They're absolutely lonely. And I've even heard that loneliness can be equated to smoking or some other health problem that can have an impact on our health. Some people, shut-ins, isolated for whatever reason, just don't have the human connection that they would like. And then with social media, we're connected, but yet we're so disconnected. We're lacking that genuine human connection. More and more people have less friends. We're in less relationships now. People aren't marrying, having children. We're losing our sense of community. People working many jobs to make ends meet with the high inflation. So they work all day, go home, and they get up and they do it all over again, and their only interaction is with people at work, and then they go home to a empty apartment or house. And it's not just in the United States, but it's worldwide, the epidemic of loneliness. It's happening in Japan and in Korea. It's such an issue in Korea that their government has dedicated millions of dollars to address the issue of loneliness, and they have many people who they find weeks later who died alone in their home or their apartment, and they have a name for it. It's a Japanese name. I'll have to look it up. But they're addressing it. World Health Organization is addressing it. The Surgeon General is addressing it. It is a big problem, multifaceted, on why is it that so many people are alone. Now, some people, they enjoy their alone time. They enjoy being alone. Oftentimes, I enjoy being alone. And of course, there's people that say there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Of course. But walking on this trail got me thinking about the topic of loneliness. How more and more people have no genuine connection, no friendships. You've got people that haven't been on dates in years, no true friends, isolated, feeling disconnected. And when you're alone, oftentimes you can waste time. You can be confused. And it's just a byproduct of just being alone. Oftentimes I'm alone. And so I understand the lack of connection and not having a true, genuine friend that I can call, talk to, depend on. Who would I call in case I get sick or end up in a hospital? I guess I'd have to call an Uber. And many reasons for it. Many reasons for it. Why people are disconnected, lonely. And I've heard it said, if you want friends, you have to be a friend. And so I have to ask myself, what kind of a friend am I? Would I make a good friend? Why is it that I choose to isolate? And so you have to ask the question, what's making you lonely? Why are you lonely? What activity is causing it? And then finding ways to correct it. And for me personally, just getting myself out, talking to people, joining a group. There's many ways that I can get connected with people to where I don't feel isolated or lonely, and to meet people of all ages and to have regular fellowship with people and perhaps develop a relationship with a woman again. And so that is a challenge nowadays for a lot of men, at least here in the United States, when it comes to dating and love and romance. And what a mess that you're hearing from both men and women trying to find someone who's worth dating. And so it's a growing problem all around the world, this problem of loneliness. And so I get it, I can relate to it, and I have some family. I'm in contact with them. We're separated. They live in a different state. But we're not close by. My nephew, my nieces, my sister live in another state. And I only see them on occasion. And so I can understand it. So I'm taking steps myself to get out and travel, and started this YouTube channel, which has been great. People have reached out to me, and I can definitely develop friendships through this to get connected with people. So there's active things that we can do to get ourselves out, figure out why we're lonely, and do the best we can to correct it by just keep trying, keep getting out there, meeting people, meetup groups, different things that we can do to have connection. Because I don't believe we were meant to go through this life alone. There's times where you have to do things alone to be self-reliant. I can remember in some of my Army training, we did and when I was going through the Special Forces training, we did this grueling land navigation course all alone. It was just you, your rucksack, a weapon, your map, compass, protractor, and you had to navigate across the terrain, pretty much like this terrain. pretty much just like this. At nighttime, think of that. And trying to find one point in the dark. So you had to do that all by yourself. So I can operate alone. Sometimes I do better alone. But I know that all of life is not meant to go all alone. And do I see myself continuing this road, this path of loneliness, and end up like a lot of the Korean people who they find weeks later in their apartment or home, no family, no friends, isolated, and they find them that they have passed away all alone. So that's what I wanted to talk about. If you're lonely, I get it. I understand that issue and the struggle of trying to meet people. We can't hardly trust anybody anymore. Who do we trust anymore? Who do we trust? And some people have been hurt so bad, they try to be vulnerable and they get hurt. And so they just live this life of solitude with an animal, with a dog or a cat, and for their own personal safety and protection, they just live alone, but it hurts. They don't have a connection. They don't have somebody that really truly cares for them. Some people may know a lot of people and have some acquaintances, but they're not really genuinely connected to them. They're not real true friends. And I think that's a big problem. We're just not developing those intimate relationships with people and connection and having a true, genuine friend that you can talk to, that you can have a true connection with. More and more people are living alone, single family homes, and there's not that connection like a husband and wife would have, that intimate interpersonal dynamic where only you two know things about each other. And that's becoming lacking more and more. Something that's foreign for a lot of people. For a lot of people. And so whoever's out there feeling that loneliness, you're not alone. And so we have to, if we want friends, we have to be a friend. We've got to do things that are uncomfortable. A lot of us are socially awkward. I hear you. I have to make myself do things. I'm amazed I was able to accomplish the things that I did in the military. I did a good job of keeping some of my awkwardness and shyness at bay. But I just kept going. I pushed through. And so we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And going out there and going out to a place, even though you don't feel comfortable being out there, I can understand being around a bunch of people and feeling absolutely lonely. I've gone to festivals and concerts all by myself, all those people around me, and I tell you, I felt absolutely alone. And then watching the boyfriends and girlfriends walking, and husbands and wives, and the relationships, and they're holding hands, and I could truly admire that in people, that they've got somebody in their life. They've got somebody. And a lot of people don't have it. And so I know I have the power in me to get out there and develop those relationships. Making myself get out there, seeing other places, and opening up, being vulnerable. Oftentimes I keep a wall up. It's hard for me to open up to people, and because if you open up to them, then what? You're vulnerable. Now you're going to be opening yourself up to criticism and everything else. And I think for a lot of us, we protect ourselves. We just kind of keep it quiet. We keep our mouth shut. We don't really open up to people. You're a mystery to a lot of people. I've had people say, Jim, you're hard to read. And I'm sure I am hard to read. I am sure I am hard to read. As oftentimes I just keep to myself. Walking in solitude here out in nature. Look at this. The breeze blowing, fall in the 70s here. Absolutely a gorgeous day. Absolutely beautiful here today in northern Ohio. Look at it. I've had deer cross my path, the squirrels running around. Just absolutely wonderful and peaceful. But look at the path in front of me. I walk it alone, as millions of people around the world do the same thing. So what do you think? What do you think's a problem? How do we fix this problem of loneliness in our society? Why is it that we can't seem to make those connections, or why we feel that it's not even worth making connections? Some of us just stay in our houses because it's easier. Less hassle, less stress, less drama, less chaos. And people are just living, yes, it's lonely, but they're living a life in peace. But sometimes that peaceful life, you desire someone to go along with you along the path. We weren't meant to go it alone. I don't believe we were. Maybe some people that's their lot in life. As some of the people that we hold in high esteem were isolated monk type people who we still remember to this day. I think those are far and few between, but for most of us, we're social creatures. We were built for interaction, to talk, intimacy, human touch, sex, communication, all of those things, helping each other, community. And as the years go by and as the technology increases, and now you've got this AI coming on board, and as much money as Korea is dumping into the problem and Japan is addressing the problem of loneliness, I have a hunch that we are going to continue to have this problem of loneliness. People are hurting. And a tragedy that I think is when people feel like they're at the end of their rope and they take their own life. And I think that is such a tragedy. And I've heard that story where a man left a note, and he went to this bridge to go take his own life, and he wrote a note, and he says that if just one person smiles at me or says something to me along the route to the bridge, I won't take my own life. Well, we know the answer. Not one person said anything to him. And so that's something I remember too, is that when I'm out and about, if I see somebody walking along this trail, they come along my path, I try to smile and say hi to them. And people do the same to me. Or if I'm in the store or a grocery store and I look at somebody, I try to at least say something to them, make conversation, because that perhaps you may, or I may, be the only person that person spoke to all day long. And at least for a moment, they can feel like a human being. So I try to remember that. And I know that I can get out. I know I can talk to people. And I have to figure out what is it that's making me isolated and fix that problem, and why I don't have those true, genuine connections with people. And perhaps it's something, a mechanism, a protection thing, to where I just kind of keep a wall up, don't open up, just keep everything superficial, professional, whatever, and I just keep it moving, and just gotten used to just living a life the way that I've been living. And so I totally get it. So I don't want this video to go much longer. I just wanted to address it, talk about it, and perhaps maybe you guys have some suggestions, maybe can relate to the problem. Perhaps you're lonely. How did you overcome it? What were some of the things that you did to maybe suggest to other people on how to overcome social anxiety? Look at that stairway all the way down. So how did you overcome it? Maybe that'll be helpful to somebody. Anyway, that's all I wanted to share. Taking the path less traveled here. The paths, the roads that we sometimes take alone. Great eagles fly alone. That's what I was told. Lions hunt alone. Some of the great prophets, God made them alone, from my past readings. I've even said that even when you die, you're not necessarily alone. I like to think that. I can remember when my dad was on hospice, he asked me, "Junior, who's that standing there? Who's that standing behind me?" And there was nobody else but in the room except for me and him as he was going through the dying process. And that told me right there that, you know what, there's somebody around even when you're dying. And we may think that a loved one may have passed away all alone, but I don't think they do. They don't. There was somebody there around there in that room, but I couldn't see him, but my dad sensed it. And I've heard other stories too of people in the hospice care and the dying process seeing people and that kind of thing. Anyhow, I'm probably rambling on enough. So thank you for walking with me and giving me an outlet to walk and talk and enjoy this beautiful scenery as I continue walking and head on home to have dinner in my house alone, but that's okay. It's only temporary. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't already, try to get out. I hope you have scenery like this to enjoy. Look at that. Just me, nobody else. So sometimes I can see the beauty in it, of being alone. Take care. I'll see you on the next one.